Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel Trailhead Ranger NJ, and we are doing this series for preparation for Sales Cloud Consultant certification. And in this series, we are doing all these modules present in this trail mix. And in our last videos, we have done this module, that is DevOps Center Quick Look. It was very short module talking about what exactly DevOps and why should we use it, and how it is beneficial for us, and how can it be replacing the manual efforts and make the things easier. So in today's video we'll be doing this module, that is org development model. It is also related to that DevOps only, just talking about more in more details what exactly DevOps and what Salesforce DX tool we have with us. So our first unit is plan for changes to your org. So when we have changes to deploy to org, or to have retrieve changes from the org, so how should we plan it? So first they have given the example that there is an admin and which is looking for a new approach for having multiple changes and is using the organization model. So how should he use it, and what challenges he can avoid. So the challenges earlier he was facing is that he needs to track everyone's changes, what they were doing in their Salesforce org, and then keeping all the development and testing environments in sync, and then creating and deploying changes sets multiple times because of the errors and differences among environments. So when we are deploying any change from one environment to another, sometimes it fails, build fails because of some reason, such as if we are changing a field from formula to a text or text to a formula, so such change cannot be uh, deployed easily. We need to create manually new field, or find a different approach to deploy that in new or our another progressive or. So to avoid that, we are using that new development model, which is org development, and it provides us with greater flexibility and scalability. Then there are new ways to track and manage changes, and there is a different method of deployment. We can use Salesforce extension in VS Code or any IDE which helps us to do it. How we can do this? We can prepare the release environments. First we can do the development test in one environment. Each developer can have their own developer sandbox, and they can have their changes in each of their organizations or org, you can say. And then they can test if their functionalities are working fine, and it there will be no production data in that developer sandbox. And then we can have another sandbox related to build release, in which we can migrate all the changes done by each team member. And then this sandbox can be developer pro sandbox with integration, and it this sandbox also doesn't contain any production data, but we can have our testing data in this sandbox to test the data. Then we can have another sandbox for test release. This sandbox we can use for UAT. This sandbox can be partial sandbox, and we can have the replica of production data but not the actual production data. Then later on we can have the release sandbox, or you can say a sandbox for release. So when we have our data in this release related org, we can use the full sandbox, and we can avoid the risk of tailoring any production data, because it will just be a copy of production or you can say full sandbox. So that will be having a copy of production data but not the actual production data. So we can see if our functionality is working exactly and efficiently with production data or not. So this is just the explanation with diagram. You can see with develop sandbox, each team member is having their dev sandbox, and they can retrieve or push their changes to each of their org. Then we can have build release, in which we will be having dev pro sandbox, and then we can push our changes to this org. And then we will be having for testing partial sandbox. This will be containing again testing data only, and it will use for UAT. Then we can have full sandbox for release, which will be having a copy of production data but not the actual data, and then we can verify if our code is working fine or not. And then at the last we'll be having production sandbox. So how we will be managing our changes? So you will know that there is a configuration file, that is sfdx project.json, and then there is another manifest file, that is package.xml. I'll show you. So you can see I have opened my VS code, and it's earlier project, so you can avoid all the code and everything. So we can see that there is sfdx project.json, which signifies this configurations, path, and name of project, and so on. And then we do have that in manifest package .xml. This also contains the configuration what all we do have or we want in this particular project. So if we will go back, you can avoid this. Then we have Salesforce CLI. We use Salesforce CLI for this. We can authorize our sandboxes using that. We can create and manage DX projects. Just now you have seen that this LWC project is my DX project. And then we can import and export test data. Whatever data I can create here, I can push it to the org, or I can have retrieved from the org. Similarly for metadata as well. And then we can run an automate test as well. That is, if I'll create a test class for a particular apex class, I can check if it will be passing all the scenarios or not, using VS code itself, that is using Salesforce CLI. Then there are multiple Salesforce extensions present for Visual Studio Code, that is Einstein for developers. You can see this is for Einstein for developers. We will dig into it later on when requires in another video. Then we do have Salesforce CLI integration, Apex Replay, Debugger, and LWC. So these all are installed in my VS Code. You can also have it installed. Then earlier we used to have the change list, that what all changes have been done by team members using spreadsheets or list or table or anything. Then we did have a deployment run list as well, that how many changes have been pushed or not, what are causing the issue, or what are the post deployment steps such as profile, permission set assignments, or so on. And then we did have project management tools as well, such as Agile Accelerator or Jira, which helps the team to track each and every step they are taking for a particular task or particular work they are working on, so that later on no problem occurs that how did that change came up and why did we have that change. We can have the tools installed as well, such as Salesforce CLI, Salesforce extension, then Git. You can set up Git and GitHub account as well, it will be useful. Using GitHub we can create the branch and then have the repo and push the changes to it. So if I'll go to the quiz, first is the org development model. First option is uses packages to move metadata between environments. Second is requires that you develop all customizations in your sandbox. Third is externalizes changes in a source control repository to keep environments in sync. Fourth is uses a source control repository, so developers don't have to track changes manually. Fourth should be the correct answer. Second is what is one benefit of using a source control system with the org development model? First, it allows developers to work on the same set of files at the same time. Second, you no longer need to track changes made in the sandbox. Yes. Third is it provides a snapshot of your production org at a specific point in time. No. Fourth is it prohibits a developer from seeing changes and metadata created by others. No. So B should be the correct. So let's see, both options are similar. Okay. So according to me, then A should be the correct answer for this one. And And for first quizzes, let's go with C. Seems correct. Yeah, it's correct. Uh, let's move on to the next unit. Second is development test changes locally. So we can set up a code repository, and I'll give you a brief. It is talking about all the steps. I'll go through it very fast. So what exactly is repository? Repository will contain all the changes has been made by all the team members, and related to that particular project. So you can create a project in your org to have that authorized with that particular developer org and that repo itself, and then have the code retrieved from that repo to your VS code, and then you can push it to the org itself. So uh, here they are talking about just creating a project. So just now you have seen that LWC project which is present, that is nothing but project. We can check that as well. If I'll open the command palette, I get this command that is sfdx create project with manifest. So using that I can create project. Next, they are talking about repo and how we can initialize and publish branch. So this is they are talking about. I don't have currently any repo, so you can create it and publish on GitHub as well. So then they are talking about create customizations for any requirement. So whatever changes I'll be making, and if that code is not present in that particular repo, so that changes will be tracked over here, and it will be coming like this file is having this particular change, and you can see that change by comparing that file from past and the currently you have saved it in your org. So that comes pretty handy in there. Then they are cloning the repo. We are not doing that. We can then authorize the org. Again, we do have a command for that, this authorize an org. So currently you can see the org is there. We can authorize our org, that is org, that is developer org, in which you are making any changes. Then they are making changes, that is creating custom object, custom fields. These are the changes in a change list. Then they are doing the project retrieve, that is from repo. They are getting the changes. They are pushing and creating a pull request. So currently we are not doing that. We can just go through it. Then again they are creating a trigger and deploying the changes to developer sandbox. So we can do that just directly. We do have for that sfdx command, that is deploy source to org. Again, I have shown you how we can see the command. uh, for Mac you can use command shift and P, and for Windows you can use control shift and P. So using that you will be able to open the command palette, and then you can see or you can type out the command which you need. Okay, then again they are tracking the changes and planning for the next release. So let's come to the quiz. First is, once a project is underway, what important step must a developer do before making changes? So first option is create a new GitHub repo for their code and then create a branch. Second is deploy any changes from the repository into their developer sandbox. Third is create their own Salesforce DX project. Fourth is refactor all the code provided by other developers. So uh, important step, we should create a DX project as well. We should deploy changes from the repo to developer sandbox, and we should create a repo for their code and then create a branch. Either it should be A or either it should be B. I'll go with A, uh, because uh, okay, so they are talking about new repo. So I guess B. First, we are, if it is underway, so then we should have all the changes into our developer sandbox first. So let's see. Second question is, after a developer makes a change in a sandbox, or what step is required to share it with others? create a new branch in the source control system and a new DX project. Second is test the changes after pushing them to a clean testing org. Third is deploy the changes to every teammate's sandbox. Fourth is retrieve the changes from their sandbox to the project in the source repository. So first option should be correct. Let's check. Okay. So after a developer making a change, third is definitely wrong. Retrieve the changes from their sandbox to the project in the source repository. So that is basically pushing the changes to the repository. Testing or we need to test the changes as well. So I'll go with B. Let's check. Okay, so according to my understanding, last option is left now. Let's go with that only. That's correct. It's a bit complicated, but along with you, I'm also getting the hang of it. So please pardon me. Now we are moving to the last unit of this module, that is test and deploying changes. Here we are creating a release artifact that is pulling the changes from repo. So using that source control we can pull. Okay, they are doing that, then authorizing the org and using the package.xml file. So you can follow these. It's just talking about all the commands. You can see project deploy validate command. Okay, pre-deployment steps, and then post-deployment that we need to update permissions or assign permissions to which user and so on. So let's come to the quiz. First is what is a manifest file, that is package.xml. First option is a .zip file that contains all the objects and components to deploy to an org. Second is an XML file that lists the metadata components to deploy to or retrieve from an org. Third is a package version of the changes that the development team has made in this release. And fourth is the inbound change that one deploys to the production environment. So B should be the correct answer. Second question is what is the benefit of using the project deploy validate command? First is it sets up a quick deploy to your production org which minimizes disruption to users. Correct. Second is it verifies the results of tests that would be executed in a deployment without actually committing any changes to the org. So A and B should be correct. Let's check. And it's done. So we have completed our module, that is org development model. And yes, we have faced some issues, but by making mistakes only we can proceed with learning. And in our next video we'll be targeting to complete Salesforce adoption strategies. And I hope you like the video. Please like it, subscribe the channel, and thank you. Stay tuned.